The first sign of trouble arrived on thick ivory cardstock. It sat on my front porch like a landmine wrapped in lace, an embossed envelope addressed to the residents of Oakview Farms. Inside, a glittering invitation announced the wedding of Savannah Grace Willows and Connor James McAllister. The ceremony, it stated in flowery cursive, would take place at Oak Trail Farms. That was my land. I read it twice. Then a third time, hoping I was mistaken. But the map insert sealed it. A little hand-drawn heart marked the spot, right where my main dirt track cut across the back 40 of my farm. I'm Clint Dawson, former motocross pro, current coach, and lifelong pain in the HOA side. My land was passed down from my grandfather and had been operating as Dirt Viper MX for the past 10 years. It's a full-throttle dirt bike training facility, complete with half-pipes, jump tracks, and a maintenance barn that smells like gasoline and grit. Karen Willows, the president of the HOA and self-appointed queen of Oakview Farms, had hated me from day one. She called my business a blight, claimed my bikes were too loud, my riders too uncouth, and that my presence lowered the tone of the neighborhood. But my land wasn't subject to the HOA. It predated the entire development. Every time she tried to assert control, she found herself face-to-face with the county assessor and a dusty deed signed in 1962. This, though, was new. Booking my land, my home, for her daughter's wedding without even asking? That was war. I walked the quarter-mile up the road to Karen's house, gripping the invitation like it might bite me. Her house looked like a catalog cover, perfect shutters, pristine hedges, and a decorative sign by the door that said, "Bless this mess," in loopy lettering. Fitting. She opened the door like she'd been expecting me, dressed in a peach cardigan and pearls that looked glued in place. "Oh, Clint," she said, her voice syrupy sweet. "So glad you got the invitation. Isn't it just darling?" "You booked my farm," I said. Her smile didn't budge. "Yes. It's the perfect spot. So rustic, so open. It'll be magical. It's private property." "Oh, come now. Oak Trail Farms is community adjacent. It's mine, Karen. You can't just claim it." She waved her hand like swatting a fly. "The board voted last month to designate it a temporary communal event space for special occasions. We filed a motion. You can't file a motion on someone else's land." Karen tilted her head. "Clint, this is a once-in-a-lifetime moment for Savannah. You wouldn't want to be the reason her wedding falls apart, would you?" I didn't respond. I didn't have to. My silence said everything. Karen leaned closer, her voice dropping a notch. "Besides, you've always been a little rough around the edges. Wouldn't it be nice to show the community you can be cooperative? Just this once." I turned without another word and walked back home. That night, I sat on the hood of my old pickup, staring out over the floodlit track. Riders had finished for the day. The air still smelled of two-stroke exhaust and churned-up earth. I had a junior motocross camp scheduled for the weekend, the same weekend as the Willows' wedding. Parents had already paid deposits. Kids had trained for months. Canceling wasn't just a loss of income. It was a betrayal to every rider who counted on this place as their haven. But even deeper than that, this was my family's land. My granddad built it up post-war, one fence post and barbed wire stretch at a time. He raised cattle, then crops, then me. What Karen saw as a patch of grass for pictures, I saw as legacy. No. She wasn't going to take this from me. I picked up my phone and called my crew. "Get here early tomorrow," I said. "We've got work to do." Jax, my top rider, laughed. "What's the job?" I glanced back at the wedding invitation, now crumpled on the passenger seat beside me. "Karen thinks she's throwing a wedding on a farm." I paused. "She's about to find out it's a racetrack." By Friday morning, my farm no longer looked like mine. White tents sprouted from the ground like alien invaders. Caterers hauled in trays of imported cheese. A florist draped garlands over my timing tower like it was a gazebo. At some point, someone even tried to roll sod over part of the eastern loop. Over my track. It was like watching someone graffiti your family portrait with glitter. I stood at the edge of the clearing with my arms crossed, the crunch of gravel behind me signaling Jax's arrival. He stepped out of his truck, helmet under one arm. They really did it, huh? They did. I didn't take my eyes off the scene. A man in a bow tie was using my jump ramp as a platform for a speaker system. You want us to stop him? Not yet. I turned toward the barn. Let him build it. We'll bring it all down at once. Jax grinned. I like where this is going. That evening, just after sunset, I fired up the track lights. The stadium-grade flood lamps lit the entire farm in a ghostly wash. The wedding setup was suddenly backdropped by shadowy mounds of dirt, track tape fluttering like crime scene ribbon, and rows of pit bikes gleaming under tarps. Then I started the engines. One by one, riders rolled in. 6 in total. No revving yet, just presence. A quiet reminder of where they were. Karen showed up 20 minutes later, storming across the field in designer wedges completely unsuited for soil. What are you doing? She snapped, eyes flicking toward the starting gate. Training, I said simply. This is a working facility. Always has been. We've got rehearsal dinner speeches in an hour. You're going to ruin everything. I shrugged. Not my problem. I didn't schedule a wedding on a dirt bike track. She straightened, trying to summon whatever HOA authority she imagined clung to her name. We're under contract. Vendors have been hired. Guests are flying in. None of that has anything to do with me. Karen's lip curled like she'd bitten into a lemon. You think this is funny, don't you? No, I said. I think it's necessary. With a sharp pivot, she stomped off. I watched her navigate the uneven terrain like she was walking a tightrope over a pit of snakes. By nightfall, the band was setting up. Strings and soft vocals carried through the air, clashing with the occasional cough of an idling bike. I let them play. Let them rehearse. Let them believe. Because tomorrow would be a different show. At 6 a.m. the next morning, I walked the property. Every inch of it. I noted the tent stakes driven deep into clay. The wheel ruts from rental trucks. The misplaced sprinklers trampled under flower carts. And I took photos, time-stamped, geotagged, cataloged. Evidence. Then I gathered the riders. Today's the day, I told them. We're not rescheduling. We're not relocating. We're racing. What about the wedding? One of the younger kids asked. I smiled. They want a ceremony in the country? They're about to get one hell of a processional. We mapped the track routes to weave within 10 feet of the main tent. Safety cones? Checked. Spotters? Posted. We weren't reckless. We were strategic. By noon, guests started arriving, their pastel linen suits and silk dresses sticking out like cotton candy at a rodeo. Some glanced around nervously. Others posed for selfies beside flower-draped tractors they didn't realize were part of the pit crew's staging area. Karen walked the grounds in a beige pantsuit like she was commanding troops. She tried to avoid eye contact. I didn't let her. Beautiful day, I called from across the field. Hope the dust holds off. Her nostrils flared, but she said nothing. Savannah arrived in a white stretch SUV at 3:45, veil pinned and eyes already bloodshot. She surveyed the scene, faded jumps, dusty ground, a man in full motocross gear adjusting his helmet by the tent, and said the words I'd been waiting for. This doesn't look like the Pinterest board. No, Savannah. No, it did not. At 3:58, the minister took his place by the floral arch. At 4 o'clock, the first bike engine roared to life. The moment the engine roared, the entire wedding flinched. A sharp vrr-up echoed off the treeline as Jax tore across the starting line, his back tire kicking up a rooster tail of dust. The guests screamed, not in terror, but in confusion. A few instinctively clapped, thinking it was part of the show. It wasn't. The second rider launched into the main loop, skimming just past the tent side. A gust of wind from his momentum knocked over a stack of hors d'oeuvre trays. Champagne flutes shattered like tiny cymbals. The band stopped playing mid-note, their violinist shielding her instrument from flying dirt. Karen came storming toward me, red-faced and livid. This is sabotage, Clint. Nope, I said, barely concealing my grin. This is motocross training. Scheduled months in advance. I've got permits, insurance, waivers. Stop the bikes. Now. I folded my arms. You want them off the track, call the sheriff. Her jaw clenched. I already did. Good, I thought. That's exactly what I wanted. Meanwhile, Savannah stood frozen under the arch, her makeup already running from stress-induced tears. Connor looked like he wanted to run. Dust clouded the aisle, coating white chairs in a fine film of Central Texas grit. Guests coughed into their sleeves and shuffled toward the parking lot. And then the jump happened. Jack circled back, picked up speed, and soared clean over the decorative wedding arbor, clearing it by 6 feet. The crowd gasped. Someone actually cheered. The landing was flawless. Dirt sprayed toward the front row, catching the maid of honor square in the chest. Her lavender chiffon dress now looked like abstract art. The florist screamed. Karen lost what little composure she had left. You're going to pay for this. I'll sue you into the ground. I held up my phone. Everything's on video, Karen. Every tent you installed without permission. Every sod roll that damaged the track. And every unpaid vendor who trespassed on private property. You're ruining my daughter's life. I didn't flinch. You should have thought about that before hijacking my land. She trembled with fury, unable to form words. Instead, she pointed one shaking finger toward the road, where flashing lights now approached. The sheriff's cruiser rolled in slowly. The crowd hushed. Deputy Barnes stepped out, hat low over his brow. He was a regular on the track his son trained here. We'd spoken just yesterday. Afternoon, Clint, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Afternoon, deputy. He looked around the scene, then at Karen, who was already rushing toward him, her heels sinking into the earth. Arrest him, she shouted. They're destroying my daughter's wedding. Barnes raised an eyebrow. What's the charge? Disturbing the peace.
Trespassing.
Vandalism. Something. He turned to me. You got the paperwork? I handed him the permits, stamped and signed, dated months before. He flipped through them slowly, deliberately. Then he turned to Karen. Ma'am, you're on Mr. Dawson's private property. But the event. Unpermitted. Unauthorized. And frankly, you're lucky Clint isn't pressing charges. Karen's face crumpled like paper under a flame. Deputy Barnes continued. You and your guests need to vacate immediately. You've got 20 minutes before we start clearing the property ourselves. Savannah wailed. Mum, this was supposed to be perfect. Karen turned, frantic. Sweetheart, But Savannah was already ripping off her veil, mascara streaming. You promised this was handled. Then came the final blow. The DJ, still standing by the now crooked speaker system, grabbed the mic in the awkward silence. Well, folks, he said, half laughing, if you're still hoping for a reception, I think the honeymoon starts early. A few guests chuckled. Most just shuffled toward their cars, coughing and swatting at their dust-covered clothes. Karen didn't move. She just stood there, frozen, eyes glazed over. I walked past her on the way back to the pit, clapping Jax on the shoulder. Nice timing on the jump, I said. Felt poetic. Let's finish the session. By the time we rolled back onto the track, the last white tent was being pulled down. By Monday morning, my farm was mine again. The last of the tire marks from Karen's wedding convoy had been erased by a weekend of racing. The tents were gone, the garbage cleared, mostly by the same companies she'd stiffed once the checks bounced. All that remained was a twisted strip of ribbon snagged on a fence post and a faint smell of wilting roses.
And peace.
Glorious, rumbling, mud-caked peace. I sat on the porch with a mug of black coffee, boots on the railing, watching the morning mist curl around the timing tower. Jax was already out on the track, fine-tuning the new jumps we'd added. Our next regional qualifier was just 3 weeks out, and interest had exploded after our accidental live stream of Saturday's chaos went viral. Over 2 million views and counting. HOA Karen had become a meme. I'd seen the best one just last night, her face mid-scream, captioned, "When you book a wedding at a dirt bike Grand Prix." The comment section was savage, hilarious, and deeply cathartic. The HOA, of course, had tried to save face. At Sunday's emergency board meeting, Karen appeared via Zoom with dark sunglasses and a throat so hoarse it sounded like she'd swallowed sandpaper. She tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, but no one bought it. Turns out she'd never even gotten board approval to use my land. By Monday afternoon, she was officially voted out as president. And not just that. The board issued a formal apology, sent via certified mail, acknowledging the trespass and promising, under legal advisement, to never interfere with my operations again. It was neatly worded and full of phrases like amicable resolution and shared neighborhood values. I pinned it to the barn wall next to my race posters. Right above it, I tacked a photo someone snapped of Jax midair over the wedding arbor. Poetic symmetry. That evening, as golden hour hit, a car pulled up the drive, low, black, tinted windows. I recognized the plates. Savannah. She stepped out in jeans and a plain hoodie, the air of bridal grandeur long gone. Her hair was pulled back, face scrubbed clean. "I owe you an apology," she said. I nodded. "Appreciate that." She told me it was all arranged. Said she had connections. Said you were fine with it. I wasn't. I know that now. She looked at the track, eyes lingering on the curve where her flower arch had once stood. "You ever think about renting this place out for events? Like real ones, concerts, festivals?" I raised an eyebrow. "You trying to book again?" She laughed, genuine and tired.
God, no.
"I'm staying as far from wedding planning as humanly possible." We stood there for a moment, listening to the low hum of Jax's engine in the distance. Then she said, "You got the better story." I smirked. "That's because it's true." She left soon after, quieter than she'd arrived. I watched her taillights disappear down the gravel road, a small part of me feeling sorry for her. She'd been a pawn in her mother's scheme. Most people in this world just want a day to call their own. Karen tried to steal mine to make that happen. But out here, you don't take what doesn't belong to you. That night, under a sky blistered with stars, I walked the track one last time. No noise, no engines. Just the earth beneath my boots and the wind brushing the fence line. I paused where the arbor once stood and knelt to plant something small. A stake with a sign. No trespassing. Violators will be televised. The next morning, the bookings started rolling in. Not weddings, thank God, but motocross camps, dirt track festivals, even a regional youth race circuit. The farm had gone from a local hangout to a national curiosity. All thanks to one woman's entitled arrogance and the internet's appetite for karma. Funny how things work out. And me? I just kept riding.